Sexist father-in-law belittles daughter's achievements. My father-in-law regularly makes a great deal of sexist and chauvinist comments. What makes me upset is the frequency at which he makes these comments about my younger sister, who is a competitor. Presently, my father-in-law figures himself to be a remarkable competitor once upon a time, albeit nothing really significant. My sister is a long-distance runner, and a great one. She scores in the top 10 women of pretty much every marathon race she runs. She is my only lovable sibling, and she has a unique bond with my kids. So, possibly 3 times every year, she will run a broadcast long-distance race, and we'll watch her outrun the competition on television. While watching, it is really fun to cheer her on because my kids get really excited and start to cheer her on too. I love that my kids have her as a positive role model, and my daughter currently wants to be a great runner like her aunt. Every single time, my father-in-law will kill the mood with some snide comment like, "Yeah, she did alright, but her final time is looking kinda slow. Maybe she is just on her period? I mean, it's not horrible, but she needs to remember people are going to get faster and stay faster if she isn't at the top of her game. And if you really think about it, how much faster would a man run that race, and still perform well in terms of speed, endurance, and strength after?" I will respond, "Well, she did great relative to her competition, and I am proud of her either way." He will follow up with, "Yes, but Usain Bolt ran 100 meters in 9.58 seconds, or some similar insane comparison." He keeps acting this way in front of my kids, and I am afraid my young daughter is slowly soaking up all his nonsense. How do you handle this situation? I want to say that in general my father-in-law is pretty tolerable, but in reality I think everyone just kind of sees past his flaws because he's disabled, and a veteran. I must add that he wasn't disabled in the line of duty. He was disabled because he drove drunk, and wrapped his truck around a tree. For this reason he doesn't drink anymore, thank God, because from what I hear he was an intolerable, and dangerous drunk. This was several years ago, when my husband and I were dating. It was Christmas time, and it was my second time visiting my future dear husband's parents at their very small home. It was the duration of Christmas break, a long, and grueling 2 weeks. Why I agreed to this, I'll never know, because I was bored to tears the first time I visited them. Future dear husband ignored me, and hung with his brothers. The mom was at work, and the dad off somewhere in the shop or sleeping in his recliner. I noticed several times during this visit my husband kept getting pulled aside to various rooms or outdoors by his parents, and through the paper-thin walls I often heard my name spoken. This causes a lot of anxiety, since so far his parents had seemed pretty indifferent to me, and hadn't shown any approval or disapproval. I was already on edge with a ton of other stressors in my life, with family issues of my own, financial strain, and school stress. Finally my boyfriend took me on a walk, and told me his dad wanted to talk to me about the way I dressed because he thought it was inappropriate. I was taken aback, and very confused. I had barely spoken with the man, and being winter, I had been wearing nothing but jeans, leggings, modest, and loose-fitting sweaters, and flannels. On the weekend at church I wore a dress that my boyfriend had bought me, which led me to assume it was okay. One of the days in the week prior, future dear husband, and future brother-in-law and I went to a spring to go kayaking, and I wore shorts. But unless father-in-law had been spying through his shop window as I ran from the house to the truck, he wouldn't have seen me that day at all, because I don't recall seeing him. It is also worth noting I had no sexual history with anyone up to this point. Future dear husband was my first boyfriend, and we hadn't even had sex yet, and I slept on the couch while he slept in his room the entire time. I was very reserved, and we didn't do any PDA at all. I argued for a minute, and asked why on earth my clothes were deemed inappropriate, and why this warranted a serious conversation. Future dear husband had no spine at this point, and wouldn't give me a straight answer, but instead led me back into the house, and had me sit on the couch. The parents sent the brothers into their rooms, and it was just father-in-law, mother-in-law at his side, future dear husband, and me. For the next hour or so I was lectured by father-in-law about how he was so disgusted, and confused as to how women these days dress, and how he didn't know me well, but he knew everything he needed to know about my character based on my clothes. How I was trying to seduce his boys, and using my body in a terrible way. How if he was a young man, he would have nothing to do with me because I'm a slut who would do nothing but tarnish his reputation by mere association. I was humiliated, and angry, and confused. He never even specified what clothes he disliked. I can only assume he thought my leggings and jeans were too tight, my dress too short. I'll never know. He also lectured me for using the word stupid, which apparently in their household was on par with 4-letter words. Speechless, I looked at my boyfriend, who had his eyes down, and did not say anything in my defense. Future mother-in-law the same. I apologized for breaking rules I was unaware of, and through my shaky voice and tears I told them I'd try to respect their rules in their house. I knew that their greatest fear that they repeated often was that they hadn't raised their boys right, so I hoped that if I poked at that, maybe it would trigger a guilty response. I said I thought they raised their boys well enough to not associate with sluts or be led astray by indecent clothes. This reduced future mother-in-law to tears, and future father-in-law looked at her, then my tear-streaked face, then at future dear husband, shook his head, and said, "Women," before leaving the room. I bided my time in their home quietly, and in baggy sweatpants until I got home. I broke up with my boyfriend immediately, and for several months until he finally apologized, and promised he would stand up for me should anything like that ever happen again. Spoiler alert, this happened again other times with some of his mean friends, but at least not with his dad. I could go on about how he berated his wife for crying when their youngest son tried to commit suicide, but I'll save that for another day. I think he's a sexist, mean man. Do not be a Percy. My in-laws are staying with us for a week. They're great, we love them, but lately my father-in-law, Percy, has been difficult. Percy has a host of health problems, so I try to be as accommodating as possible, cooking healthy, delicious meals, keeping the house quiet when he is napping, etc. Percy has been through a lot, but he says and does things that have been upsetting me and my significant other. For example, Percy has a hard time maintaining a regular sleep schedule. He gets tired around 8, and then wakes up around 11 p.m., then sits in front of the TV, and falls asleep on the couch at 2 a.m., with the TV still on. When he turns on the TV, it is so loud it wakes me and my significant other. We've reminded him more than twice that our bed is on the other side of the wall, but he insists on keeping the volume up because he hates subtitles. Percy suffers from hot flashes, and is sensitive to heat. My significant other and I live in an area where electricity is expensive, but we bit the bullet so we could run the AC all day to maintain 78 Fahrenheit, 25 Celsius, so that Percy would be comfortable. It's on at 8 a.m. until we turn it off at 9 p.m., when it's cooler outside, and we can just open the windows. We have told Percy about opening the windows, and he knows how expensive it is to run the AC. He turns it on anyway when he goes into the living room for his 11 p.m. TV session. It gets down to 65 Fahrenheit, 18 Celsius, overnight, but he insists on circulating air. He doesn't even close the windows, so we're just wasting money on an additional 9 hours of pointless AC. Percy is a self-described foodie, and is a very good cook. The only problem is that he can be a bit of a snob. I tend to use very simple ingredients, but Percy is the kind of guy who takes pride in using expensive ingredients, like truffle oil. I use iodized table salt for my cooking. Percy decided to treat us by making us dinner, and he was rummaging in my spice cabinet, and found a packet of expensive pink Himalayan salt that I was saving for special occasions. He ripped the bag open, and said finally, "Some good salt. None of that iodized crap." He then put his hands, which were wet with raw pork, into the bag to grab a pinch. I know salt kills bacteria, but now the salt has clumps of pork juice in it. Our cat is very annoyingly vocal when he wants attention. We have been training our cat not to yowl for attention, but Percy thinks it's fun to talk to our cat. So our cat will go to Percy for attention, and they yowl at each other. Even my mother-in-law was like, "Percy, stop egging on the cat, it's getting annoying." But no, Percy doesn't give a crap. During Percy's midnight TV time, they can be heard yowling at each other over the blare of the TV. So yeah, the past 3 days have been just great. I've been sleeping less than 4 hours a day, while still being expected to make and plan all the meals, on top of my daily chores, while constantly entertaining my in-laws. 5 days to go and it is getting worse. Before that, I feel that I should clarify a few things. Add info. We don't take or keep the cat in the bedroom with us because his food, water, and litter are in the kitchen and laundry area. Plus he hates being holed up in a room, and would yowl at us until we open the door anyway. We kept the AC at 78 because it's what Percy specifically requested. It's cool enough for him, but not too cold for mother-in-law. She gets cold very easily. The thing is he wants it on all day, literally 24 hours a day. Percy chews tobacco. This is one of the things I forgot to mention. I'll get into it more later. Percy makes a lot of stereotyping and racist comments, and it's been getting worse. I am Asian, specifically Korean. He has made a lot of Asian jokes, most of which I just shrug off. "You're Chinese? What does ching chong mean?" Like, 70% of our interactions are his racist jokes, and I'm getting tired of tolerating it. It's my belief that if you're the type of person that relies on stereotypes and racism to carry conversation, you're a boring, shallow person. Anyway, more about Percy's worst behavior. Fast forward to just less than a week later, and the in-laws are leaving tomorrow. Here are a few highlights from the past 4 days. We went on a few really long day trips. One day trip was at a famous city, and another to a state park. Each of the day trips required 4 or more hours of driving, round trip. Percy doesn't like sitting for long periods of time, and gets very grouchy. He spent the rides criticizing my significant other's driving, the way our car handled the roads, basically, etc. He also left a few tobacco spit bottles in the car to get ripe, as well as tobacco flakes all over his seat. We decided to visit the famous city's Chinatown. Percy didn't want to go because he was worried that there would be too many Filipinos. Apparently, when he had visited the Chinatown in Manila, there were Filipinos everywhere. It was dangerous. Manila is in the Philippines, so I'm not sure what he was expecting. The famous city's Chinatown was more to Percy's liking. Not too many Filipinos, you look like you fit right in, OP. At the state park, we stopped by a counter-service cafeteria-type cafe, where you order and get food in one area, and pay at a separate register. When we arrived, there was only one line, and you could pay at the same place as the coffee station. It got busier, and they had the paying and finished customers move to the end register so they could just get coffee orders. Percy threw a fit. We were next. You are going to make us move all the way over there? We've been waiting this whole time, and now you're moving us? My significant other had to calm him down. Significant other had looked at the weather forecast, and it said it was going to be cold or rainy at the state park. Percy decided to wear jeans, rather than shorts. The entrance to the state park was a bit warmer than forecast, so Percy was complaining that he shouldn't have listened to my significant other, and just worn shorts. I suggested that Percy could roll up, and he got upset that I would even suggest that. I'm not gay. It's okay for gay guys, and women to roll up their pants, but not men like me. It was much colder later, so Percy shut up. Percy eats at the couch, leaving crumbs, and bits of food. Even though we have a dining room that is directly facing the TV, he just has to be right in front of the TV. Percy leaves tobacco flecks everywhere, the living room, the car, in the carpet. We have to discreetly vacuum or else he's like, I know I'm making a mess, and gets dramatic about how he's trying to be as clean as possible. He has a spit cup that I gave him, specifically to use, but no, he also wants to use the pretty cup my sisters gave me. So he has 2 spit cups, and also likes to spit in the kitchen sink, so tobacco goo all over that too. Percy likes to help with the dishes. All he does is rinse them, and put them in the dishwasher, but doesn't run it. It's usually not a full load, maybe half. I'm not going to wait 1.5 hours for the dishwasher to run a cycle on a half load of dishes. I end up having to pull all the dishes out to wash them by hand, because it's either that, or I wait for the dishwasher to be full, and then wait 1.5 hours for the dishes to run a cycle. I've told Percy that the dishwasher is old, and very slow, and that I will do the dishes, but he insists. More work for me, I guess. Percy's racist and stereotyping comments are becoming more common, and grosser. I was sitting next to my significant other, watching him playing a video game. I had cut up some fruit, and was sharing it with I would eat a slice, and feed my significant other a slice. Percy said I should have married a Korean lady. German women don't do that. My mother-in-law is German. He's never said it directly, but Percy often makes comments implying that I'm the desirable, submissive Asian wife. I was massaging my significant other's shoulders after a very stressful day at work, and Percy looks at mother-in-law, and says, why don't you do that? Is it because you're not Asian? I made a Korean feast, bulgogi, and all the bankin', and Percy says to my significant other, you eat like a king. Wish I married a Korean girl. It's all very cringe-inducing. Less than 24 hours left. I'm very excited to have my home back to normal soon. They got a really early flight, so that they would arrive home at a decent time. We have to leave the house at 3 a.m. and drive them an hour to the airport. As much as that's going to suck, I'll be happy to have a peaceful drive back. Also, my significant other has talked to Percy, as have I, on different occasions, mentioning that we don't like his comments. I've told him that his I wish I married a Korean girl comment make me uncomfortable. The first couple times, he apologized. Lately, he's gotten worse, and becomes defensive when confronted. Not sure what's caused him to change. I love my dear husband. Let me preface this by saying that my dad and I are in a good place now, but it's been a long and bumpy road. So my dad has always suffered from what I refer to as typical Mexican machismo bullcrap. He has always talked down to me, and my older siblings. We, the kids, have always butted heads with him growing up because we would often call him on his crap while my mom just stood there listening to the bull. And of course he was never wrong, so anyone who disagreed was an ungrateful, selfish piece of crap. Onto the story. I was 17, and hanging out with my boyfriend, a friend, and friend's boyfriend. I got into a fist fight with another girl at the mall, and we were all detained in the mall security office. My parents show up, and my dad starts telling me how stupid I am. My friend's mom comes, and starts telling her that she is never allowed to go anywhere again. I stand up, and tell my friend's mom that she didn't do anything, and is only here because we happened to be together, but that I was responsible for the whole altercation. Cue my dad telling me to shut the hell up, and not to get myself into further trouble for someone else, and that of course this was my fault, but why did I have to be so stupid, and say that to everyone? After many more insults, including where he told me that I was worthless, and no better than dirt, my then boyfriend stood up, and told my dad that he didn't have to talk to me that way. My dad just looked at him, and said, "Sit down. You can't tell me how to talk to my daughter." My boyfriend kept standing, and told him, "That may be true, but it doesn't make it right." Fast forward 5 years, and boyfriend is now dear husband. We are living in my parents' guest house. My dad and I are in the backyard in a ridiculous argument over the water hose. Here come the insults so loud the whole neighborhood can hear. My mom is just standing there listening as always. Dear husband comes out, gets between me and my dad, tells him, "I don't care what y'all are arguing about. You don't have to talk to her like that." Then my dad spits out his go-to line about how no one can tell him how he can talk to his daughter. Dear husband says, "No, but I for damn sure can tell you how you can talk to my wife." My dad just stood there dumbfounded. My mom looked like she wanted to run. It's like the world stopped and I fell in love all over again. It's been about 10 years since that incident, and things have gotten a lot better with my dad. He is still an asshole, but at least he treats me with some respect now. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories delivered to you. Thanks for listening. See you later.